Hi everyone, welcome to Leader in You interview series, created to gain insights from diverse leaders in their field. Today, I'll be chatting with Robin Lee, who is head of APAC of Napier AI, leading the Asian expansion of one of the hottest RegTechs in the market. He has an illustrious career from Silicon Valley, Wall Street to now in Little Red Dot, Singapore, building and growing his experience in MNCs, startups to many of his philanthropic experiences. Thank you, Robin, for coming on this show. Robin.
Thank you, Valerie. It's an honor and privilege to be here.
Thank you very much. Robin, as a leader in evolving in different roles, companies and countries, share how has your leadership style been?
Fundamental element that has definitely been prevalent throughout my career is the teachings I received from my professor, my sales management professor at Santa Clara University, and it revolves around this one phrase that he came up with, which is leadership versus management, right? And he said, Robin, a manager makes you want to do something, whereas a leader makes you want to be somebody. And that's something that has stuck with me throughout and has always been in the back of my mind in the various leadership roles that I've had throughout my career since then.
Good to hear that. What has changed in your leadership over time?
Okay, well, I would put it down to three things. Okay, the first would be what I call the Bruce Lee approach, right? Where you're constantly learning, but you're constantly learning new things and taking what's applicable to you. So, Bruce Lee learned a variety of martial arts, from karate to kung fu to jiu-jitsu, learned everything, and then took again what was applicable to him, his style, his body type, etc., to make him way more effective. The other element that I think has changed, or is what I alluded to earlier with this concept of adapting, right? So it's what I call the Captain Kirk versus Captain Picard. So for those of you who aren't Star Trek fans out there, these are the two prevalent captains of the spaceships that they have. The first Captain Kirk was very much hands-on, like he would go down with his team and do things with his team and get in the trenches per se, whereas Captain Picard was more presidential, right? He sent other people out who do a lot more delegating and was less hands-on. And I think depending on the size of organization that you work in, you need to be able to figure out which style is more applicable to you as well. So I've done startups where I'm doing the accounting, doing everything and what have you, whereas simultaneously organizations like Thomson Reuters or Refinitiv, right, where you have thousands and thousands of employees, you can't be doing all of that by yourself. So need to figure that out. The last but not least is is people reading, right? The ability to read people and figure out who's real, who's not. And I'll talk more to that later. But I think that's another important factor is your people reading abilities as you progress through your leadership journey.
That's good to know. So you accommodate depending on the company size and the people that you work with. That's good.
Yeah,
leadership.
Yeah, very much so.
So what is the key virtue as a leader to maintain in one's leadership?
So I guess my initial thought of that is the whole human experience. I have a Maya Angelou quote on my my LinkedIn, which is that people will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel, right? And to me, that's something that as a leader, if I draw it back to that, manager makes you want to do something, a leader makes you want to be somebody, is something that you have to get across, right? The second is to recognize that a lot of the times decisions should not be made by you as an individual. It should be made by the team. And so when you're more inclusive and when it comes to decision making, I think it's more effective, especially the different perspectives that the variety of individuals on your team can bring. The third is if people are working hard, you got to work harder, right? You got to lead by example. You have to show that you're not the organization has to you have to not so much inspire people, but show people that you walk the talk, right? And then last but by no means least is creativity, right? Be original, come up with original ideas, try and leverage other people's creativity, and you'll be surprised as to how many obstacles you can jump through, shall we say, when you leverage those creative juices.
That's good to hear. I think it's very important now to be an inclusive leader. Because of people more focused on diversity and inclusion, and then getting people, because I don't think any leader can work alone. You need a team to go and help. So what would be your advice to future leaders in this ever-changing VUCA world? And after this pandemic, things move so fast. And now we're going into the metaverse world future too.
Sure. So look, it's not too different from where we are today, right? It's not like we're all stuck physically in a room anymore. I think that human element that I spoke to earlier is really, really important. And so your communication styles may change, right? And so if you get as much in person, one-on-one, and I guess the metaverse changes that, right? Because in the past, I would say that if you have a scale, and on one end of the scale you have face-to-face, and the other end of the scale you have email, right? You want to be as close to the scale as possible when it comes to communicating with your team or to anyone, right? You want to focus on that. I guess the metaverse kind of replicates that in a way, right? It's just that you're doing it in a virtual world. But I think less text, because a lot of stuff can be misinterpreted with text, and more face-to-face is definitely important. And so what comes with that is stuff like your authenticity, character, integrity, stuff like that, right? Because we do live in a world today where we have everybody can see everything because of social media and because of all these different platforms, right? And everyone has a voice, right? Everyone can get on Twitter and start and open up a Twitter account, and start tweeting stuff, etc. And so when you have like cancel culture and what have you, you just got to really, really stay true to who you are and be you, right? And your ability to do that in that VUCA and metaverse world, I guess can also have the opportunity for individuals to not be real, but people will still see through it in the long run, right? So I think it's really important to just stay in your lane and be who you are.
Yeah, I think I agree very well. It's very true, because no matter what, you can't hide behind anything, or better, because your true self, and people do search about you, whether digitally, offline, or so on, and they sure will kind of find you and see what you're doing, and word do get out, right?
Yeah, people talk, right?
Yeah, correct. So finally, share with us the best lesson you have learned as a leader.
Okay, the best lesson or a funny lesson? I guess I'll start with the funny one. I mean, so when I worked at one of the big firms that I worked at,
the best one.
Sure.
I'm sure you have many great lessons that you learned as a leader. Yeah, what's the most memorable that comes to your mind?
Okay, the most memorable one from I'll talk about a funny one, and then I don't have a best one yet, but maybe that will come as I'm telling the funny story. But from a funny perspective, one of the corporations I worked at, they had very, very company specific terms, nomenclature, etc., etc. And so I joined the company, and we were introduced to the ELT, the executive leadership team. Okay, and everyone was saying, oh, you have to present, Robin, to the ELT, or the ELT is going to be the ELT, ELT, ELT. So I was like, oh wow, okay. So I asked around. I was like, what's an ELT? When I first joined, and some of my colleagues were, oh yeah, that's the executive leadership team. It's a very, you know, us thing, referring to our organization. So I'm like, all right, I've got that. And then just overnight, the company, so I was about a month in, the company started using the term BLT. And so I was like, what's BLT? And some of my colleagues are like, yeah, it's a term that's been thrown around for like just before you joined. It's actually been here quite a while, Robin. I'm like, okay, what does it mean? And like, oh, we don't know. I'm like, okay, but this is a us thing, right? And they're like, yeah, but no one knows. The ELT just came up with it overnight. So I'm like, okay, cool. And it's been around for a while. So I'm like, okay. And then later on, we had a massive conference call, and so this is a global call. Everyone from the US, Europe, Asia, they were all on this call, and someone on the call was like, yes, ELT is aware of this now. Now let's get the BLT to execute it. And I at the time, you know, new guy, right? I was just like, look, I've got to ask this question. Sorry, guys, but what exactly is a BLT? The new guy question here. What is a BLT? And my colleague, who was sitting across the desk from me, and he was clearly like in a zoned out mood. And he's like, BLT, bacon, lettuce, and tomato. And I was like, oh. And then everyone on the call heard this and just started cracking up. And then someone else came on and said, it's actually the business leadership team. And I was like, oh, okay, got it. But it just goes to show, right, from a leadership perspective, that if you don't communicate, right, and you don't share these little things like this, that a lot of people could end up being really confused, because there was a period for about 2-3 months where guys were going around not knowing what BLT stood for and who was in it, right?
Yes. Yeah, actually it's true. Quite a number of companies use a lot of acronyms, and then the thing doesn't like flow through and so on to other people. That's a good, funny story and good learning for all of us. So, any acronyms for you when you're doing running in your own team?
Any acronyms? No acronyms per se. I guess what I try and do is like do little things like host weekly training sessions, make things a little bit more tangible for people on my team, because you know we spend just as much time working as we do in our social lives, arguably more, right? So unless you make things, you know, appealing, tangible, etc., people just aren't gonna relatable, right? People just aren't going to be engaged, and I really love what the culture that, you know, originally SAS and then later Google brought to the table, where you create as awesome an environment as possible, whereby people, not that people want to work, but people want to work more than thinking, oh man, this is a job, not a career. You know, I'm not going to get any learning done here. I'm not going to go very far here. I just put punch. That's how old I am. I'm a punch card in, punch card out kind of vibe.
Yeah. It's good to hear that. Thank you very much, Robin, for your sharing.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone on for watching this as well. Really appreciate it.